Hi there. This is going to be a short video on replacing the polarizer in a Nintendo Game & Watch. It's probably one of the easiest fixes that you can do that will make one of the biggest differences. You'll notice if I just put these batteries in, so if you have a look at the screen here, that the screen or the sprites look very light. So I don't know if you can sort of see that, but it looks very light. The game plays perfectly, but everything is very light, and often people think that there's some sort of issue with the screen, and the reality is it's actually not the screen. There's a polarizer that sits on top, and replacing it is a really easy fix to do and will make a significant difference. So let's get right ahead and do that. So you really don't need very much to do this. All you really need is a pretty basic screwdriver. So I'm going to go ahead and start taking the screws off the back. And so you don't need much more to do this. I'm using one of these silicon soldering pads. They're actually really quite a handy device. It means that if you are later doing other repairs where you're soldering, it doesn't actually make any difference. It's not going to burn through this pad and burn anything underneath. So they're really great pads. You can pick them up from most hardware stores or DIY stores. They've also got these kind of handy little pockets in the side to store things. And the other kind of handy little thing that they have is up the top here is a little magnetized holding storage. So when I put these next screws in, I'll just tap that one out. They're kind of handy to hold in there, and they'll actually pre-magnetize it for you. So I've taken the 6 screws off on the outside. It doesn't really matter what order you do to take them out, but what is important is on the inside there's actually another set of 4 screws, and the screws are different sizes. So you've got a long screw and a short screw, and it's quite important that you put them back in the correct place. So if I just line those two up, you'll see the long screw is the outside, the short screw is the inside. And if you get them the wrong way around and you're putting a long screw on the inside, you can cause some damage, and if you're putting a short screw on the outside, it may not grab. The later Game & Watches have these handy little circles around where the screws go, so it's really easy to remember when you're putting it all back together what goes where. But some of the earlier consoles and some of the multi-screens don't have these little circles, and so you've taken all the screws out and you end up with just a whole bunch of holes, and you're not quite sure what goes where. So I always kind of find it handy to, when you first take the back cover off, take a photo, and then you'll see where those various screws are, and then when you're going back to put it all back together, it's obviously easy to do all of that. Okay, so we've taken all the screws off. Now what we need to do is remove the back cover. So again, you can either flip it over or just put the screwdriver in under a corner and lift that corner up, and that'll all come away. Sometimes some of these pieces will stick together. These buttons will stick to the screen. Nothing is glued in. Everything is just pressure. So it's all just kind of held there by pressure. So different things might be in different places. So I'll take that away. Just be careful not to pull this away from the back cover. You don't want to pull the speaker away. Might just get rid of these screws up here. Right, so now we've got the actual game, the game screen, and you'll see another little thing is this little black plastic loop in here. Again, different units will or won't have some of these little holding pieces, and really what they're designed to do is to hold the screen in place. So you can see that I'm actually going to use a little screwdriver. You can see that this little black piece is tucked in here, and it's holding this screen in place so it doesn't move around. In other units you'll find they're little clear plastic pieces that kind of will sit around the edge, and in other units they won't be in there at all. The reality is it doesn't really make any difference if you don't put these pieces back in again. The pieces don't move around that much that you really ever need them. I like trying to keep these units as complete as I can, so I'll put this piece back in at the end. Okay, so now we'll lift this piece up, and you'll see that it's made up of 2 pieces. So we've got the actual screen, which is the image. I'll just put that aside. Remember that it's going to go back in this way, so I'll put this here. And then we've got the polarizing piece. And the way that the polarizer works is it'll only work one way. So if you flip it over the wrong way, the screen is going to appear black and all the sprites will appear white. If it's in the right way, the sprites will appear black and the background will appear white. So it's obviously important that you get that back in the same way. So when you take these out, often you'll find that they're actually sort of really quite dirty. This one's pretty good, but often the best way to start is actually just to give these a good clean. And you can do that just with some warm soapy water, wipe that off with a sponge, dry it all off, and sometimes putting that back in again will actually make sort of quite a big difference or quite a good difference. The other thing that you can also do if you've got other consoles or donor consoles or old broken consoles is you can actually sort of layer these polarizers. So you can put one polarizer in and another on top, assuming it's in the right direction, and often that will actually fix the screen and make it a bit darker. In this instance, we're not going to do that. We're actually going to replace the polarizer altogether. So I'll take this one away and I'll bring in my replacement polarizer. So you can buy these on eBay, some of the Nintendo Facebook groups or Game & Watch Facebook groups, you can find them. I also sell them, so I'll put some notes in the comments field and you can find them on eBay where I sell them. But effectively they're all sort of the same kind of thing. All of the polarizers, or most of them, will have this protective film on it. So if I peel it away, you'll see that there's a film on this side and a film on that side. So I'll need to remove both of those films to put it back in. But really the important thing I now need to do is make sure I put it in the right way around. If I put it in upside down, I'm going to have that issue where everything appears black. So to do that, I'm going to get another Game & Watch. I'm going to cheat a little bit and I'm going to hold this polarizer over. So if I hold it over this screen, you'll see that the screen goes black. If I hold it the other way, I can see through. So this is the outside of the screen. So I need to make sure that I do that. Now, if you don't have another Game & Watch to do this, you can either test it at the beginning and make sure that you work out which is the right side, or alternatively, which is the worst case, is you put it all back together, screw it all together, put in batteries, and then you'll work out whether or not it was the right way or the wrong way. But you don't want to do that because you'll have to take it all apart again. So that's the side that needs to be the outside. So I'm going to flip that over so it's going in this way. I'll peel off the film. And the other side. And then I'll put that piece back in. You really got to be careful that you don't want to get dust on this at any stage. Okay, so I put that back in, I'm putting the cover back in, and really now it's just putting everything back together. So I'll get that. I'm going to get my little plastic protecting piece and just slot that in there. Now it's all back together. And now really I'm going to just start putting it all back together. So I'll slide this back in, make sure it'll all fit sort of quite snug. There you go. And now I'll start screwing these back in. So because these were in this little magnetized area, the screws all stay on, so it's all sort of quite handy to put that back in. When you're screwing it back together, you want to make it firm but not tight. So again, it's the actual the screen works by pressure, so you need to have enough pressure against the elements so it's sort of creating that image. But you don't want to screw it so tight that it starts kind of causing cracks or sort of doing damaging. So firm, but you don't sort of give it that final twist to make it tight. So that's that side on. Now I'm putting the other side. The things to remember here is sometimes the wires kind of get in the way. So remember, these little screw holes need to line up with these screw holes. Sometimes the wires shift around, they get in the way. Sometimes they kind of end up on here. So you just need to kind of fiddle around with that. The other thing to really remember with these is the way the Game & Watches come together is they hook in. So there's a little hook here and there's a little hook here. And so you don't just sort of push it together. The same when you're taking it apart, don't just pull it apart because you'll break that little hook. I probably should have pulled that out at the beginning. but what you're actually doing is putting it together and then sliding that little hook together, and you just kind of feel it lock in like that, and it holds in like that. So now I'll start putting the back screws back on. Again, it doesn't really matter the order that you put it in, although I kind of like to mix it up. So I'm doing one at the top, one at the bottom, one at the top, one at the bottom, just so I'm mixing up the pressure. I'm not sort of putting too much pressure across the bottom in one go. And now I'll do the others. And again, the same process. You want to make it firm but not tight. So screw that together. And I'll just finish these off. I've got some videos on replacing polarizers in the other different units. So the multi-screen, the silver or the gold series, and some of the micro systems. So it's a slightly different process, but in theory, all pretty similar. Once you've done one, they're all kind of the same. So let's get this last screw in. We'll put in these batteries. Flip it over, and now you'll see fantastically really dark, crisp, clear black sprites. So that's a video of replacing a polarizer in a Nintendo widescreen. Thank you very much. Bye.